What's going on, Raider Nation? Welcome to another True Raider podcast. We just had a couple days of draft. Honestly, myself, I've been pretty exhausted. Let's see how many people are going to jump on a Sunday morning. At least it's morning over here. If you're East Coast, it's probably a little bit later. Right now, where I'm at, it's 11 a.m. Uh, pretty excited about this draft. Pretty excited. So I'm hoping some of you guys jump in on the comments. Let me know, what's your grade? Where are you sitting at with this? Um, Me personally, um, my initial thoughts about the draft as it was unfolding are different than my thoughts on it right now. Initially it was like a tight end. Are you kidding me? And then it was like, okay, like our second pick, amazing right out the bat, right? I wasn't upset about that at all. Our third pick, I was like, who's that guy? And I kept like seeing people on the board, and I kept thinking, like, all right, they're gonna get this guy, and then nope. And okay, they're gonna get this guy, and then nope. And honestly, that's really how it plays out for me almost every year. The guys that I look at in the off season, coming up to the draft, often are not the guys that the Raiders end up looking at. But overall, man, like I'm pretty happy with how this came out. If I had to give it my rating right now, I'm gonna say I'd give it a solid B. Chad Smith in the chat, he also said a B. Let me pull that up real quick. Brock was a luxury, not a need. Still happy with overall results. And like I really feel like since we didn't pick up on a quarterback in that first round, and there was efforts to get that quarterback, right? There was calls made to the Commanders to try to trade up to number 2. There was even calls made to the Patriots to move up to number 3. I think that one was more about move up to 3 and then try to do a pick swap with the Commanders. Um, and then with Michael Penix Jr., we made calls to the Falcons to try to move up to number 8 to go and get him. And really, that just did not turn out very well. And since all these quarterbacks went off the board, and the Falcons really, they threw things off, really bad. I was hearing a report about the Broncos, Vikings, and Raiders at one point, I guess, were all on the phone together, and they were talking about the quarterbacks that they wanted, right? And I guess the Raiders wanted Michael Penix Jr., the Broncos wanted Bo Nix, and the Vikings wanted JJ McCarthy. And so they are kind of all in agreement of like, okay, none of us have to move up. We can just sit where we are. We're going to be able to get our guys. And then I guess the Falcons just threw a wrench in everything by picking up Michael Penix Jr., which caused the Vikings to kind of panic and trade up and go get JJ McCarthy. And then the Broncos got to sit pat and just kind of get the guy that they wanted. And so when it came to pick number 13, all of a sudden we're sitting in a position where it's like, okay, all the quarterbacks that the Raiders deemed worthy were off the board. Now what? And so it's like best player available. There can be an argument made on that because really Fuaga, is just a right tackle that's going to be a starting guy immediately. And I'm honestly a little bit upset about us not being able to have Fuaga and Jackson Powers Johnson right next to each other on the right side. Oh man, that would have been brutal. But the whole thing with Brock Bowers does not upset me at all. Brock Bowers, at first I was just like a tight end, like we don't need a tight end. We got Michael Mayer. So, if you look back at last year, Michael Mayer, he he would have been the best tight end in college football, right? Except that he got beat out by one guy. And that one guy was Brock Bowers, right? And so if you really look at the last 2 years, we essentially have gotten the two best tight ends that could be had, and they play very different roles. Brock Bowers, he I think he has like a Christian McCaffrey kind of style. I've had some other people tell me that he's more of like a George Kittle kind of Debo Samuel, which none of those names are bad to me at all. I watched a lot of tape on Brock Bowers. It's a lot easier to find tape on him than anybody else. And really, he has a lot of gadget plays. He plays slot. He plays tight end. He plays on the outside. He even takes snaps from the backfield. There was just like some really really amazing play on offense. He's just like a brutal weapon that, you know, I think that what they were looking at is okay, we didn't get the quarterbacks that we wanted. So we're just gonna ride on Garner Minshew, and whoever wins that battle is gonna be our guy moving forward. And then let's just add a weapon for them, right? And so they chose weapon over protection, which, it didn't make so much sense at first, but once they went and got Jackson Powers Johnson, then it was like, oh, okay, like we got some solid protection on that interior offensive line, and that's really going to free things up, for these quarterbacks to make some solid plays. So I want to go ahead and share a screen since we're on Brock Bowers, man. I finally figured this issue out for any of you guys that have been rocking with me the last couple days. I was having some issues with my share screen, and I found out that it's something to do with my settings, and I couldn't fix what was happening, but I found a loophole around it. All right. So Brock Bowers, he's 6'4", 230 pounds. Um, he's a fast player. He plays rough. If you look at his stats, he's got 882 yards, 942 yards, 714. He had more touchdowns a couple years ago than he did this last season. I think part of that's gonna, show that, you know, uh, defenses were planning for him a lot better. But he definitely put some touchdowns on the board, and I really don't feel like his stat sheet really gives a good picture. Um, but if you look at his average receptions, it's, all of them are 15, 15, 12.8. This dude is really just gonna be a beast. If you haven't watched any tape on this guy, I really suggest you check it out. I mean, for me, you know, um, I could watch some highlight reels and think any player is good almost, right? But like when it really comes down to watching when people do film breakdowns and things like that, I really enjoy those because, I'm not a football expert, right? I'm a Raiders fan. And so there's a lot of those kind of, little things that I don't really notice that, some of these people that really, get into film breakdown are able to really just point out, like, this is where he does really good on these motions, or this is where he really falls short. And this dude is just an absolute beast. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, future Hall of Famer, things like that, and really we'll see, right? Some people are saying he's definitely an all pro. He's definitely a day one starter, and that's a big one, right? Because if your first round pick is not a day one starter like last year, then there's some problems with that, man. Ryan Mahoney, what's up, man? Bowers is a beast. Yeah, he definitely is, man. And he's got a lot of yards after the catch, right? This dude, he'll take contact and he'll keep moving, and that's going to be really big for us, man. I'm really looking forward to what that play is going to look like. James, welcome back, man. You're always up in here, man. I'm glad you made it, man. Glad you made it. Yeah, man. Bowers is definitely going to make a big difference. I'm pretty excited about that. I want to go ahead and move on to our next guy, man. Let me see. Let me pull this up. It takes me a little bit longer to do like the share screen, right, Ryan? Yeah, he's got great hands too. Because I'm having to do this loophole to get around the issue that I'm having, man. But it's all right, man. We'll make it work. So Jackson Powers Johnson, man. Um so Jackson Powers Johnson, I didn't really pull up his stat sheet so much because I don't feel like it really reflects um the same kind of thing that I really want to look for. But what I really like that it shows here is his grading, right? He led all FBS centers in overall, which is an 84.3, great rating. And run blocking grade was an 85.2. And he ranked second in pass blocking grade at 90.6. Now, this dude he's 6'3", 320 pounds. And a big one with him, man, is, and I always love it, and I know it doesn't count for everything, but this guy grew up a Raiders fan, right? He comes from a Raider household, and I really think that that counts for a lot, right? Because getting drafted to a team that like you really just want to be at. I mean, this guy's already a dog, right? He already just has that motor. He's got that power. And so when you get an opportunity to play for the team that you've been rooting for, I think that you're going to give that much more of your all on every snap. And so I'm really looking forward to that. See, Ryan, yeah, favorite pick is Powers Johnson. Huge Duck fan. Um, and the thing is, man, is like I didn't think he was gonna fall to the second. So like I knew he was on the board like when I was doing like mocks and like looking at tape like before the draft. But really I didn't think that this dude was gonna ever have a chance of falling to us, and I didn't think we are gonna pick him at 13, right? I thought even if we were to be in a scenario where we're picking at 13 and we're not getting a quarterback or we're trading back, I honestly didn't think that he was an option for us because he was a center, right? I really thought that we are going to go right tackle, cornerback, quarterback, one of those positions. But like they already said, like they're planning on playing him at guard, right? Andre James got a call from the draft room. Right before when they were on the clock, they called up Andre James and they're like, "Hey, we just want to let you know we're drafting this guy, but you are going to be our starting center." And I mean, Andre James, the way his contract is laid out, really, he might not have a lot of longevity with us. I have a feeling that Powers Johnson is going to go ahead and start at right guard this coming season. And then the following season, he might take over that center position. And you could see like in his uh interview that they had with him afterwards, he was just kind of like, I don't think he really knew that they were going to put him at guard. But when I think it was Hondo Carpenter, one of these guys said like, they drafted you with the intent of putting you at guard. You could kind of see he was a little confused, and he was like, well, center is really where I thrive, and things like that. And so I think that he's going to be gunning for that center position, and I'm not mad about it, because Andre James, he's a good center. He gets beat a lot. He's smaller. Um, but I really think having Powers Johnson on his side is really going to change the way that Andre James' game really comes through. So I really think it's going to be pretty good. Yeah, I definitely thought he was going to be first round, and I definitely think he's going to play center too, man. Yo, hit list. What's up, man? You always popping in. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Yes, please drop that like, get me in the algorithm. If you're not subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe. It's totally free. It may not make a huge difference in your life, but it's going to make a huge difference in mine. So please hit that sub. That'd be awesome. So yeah, man. So these first two picks, I think, are day one starters. You're gonna have Brock Bowers definitely gonna start, and I don't think he's always gonna be coming from tight end. And I was talking about it before that our receiver room, it definitely after losing Hunter Renfro, it's like we kind of lost a weapon. And that's one of the things that people have already said about Brock Bowers is that he's like a bigger, stronger, faster Hunter Renfro. And I kind of can see that, but I also see him as being more of an elite player than Hunter Renfro ever was, right? And I really liked Hunter Renfro, but basically he had that one huge season where we lost Henry Ruggs, and Darren Waller was out on injury, and Derek Carr, like he's pretty infamous for having that one target, and he just keeps getting the ball to that guy, right? And so I really feel like that's what happened with Hunter Renfro, and he had that big season. And really, that season made it to where people were aware of him, right? Because at first you're looking at this little tiny slot receiver, and you're like, yeah, we're not too worried about that guy, right? But when you put up over 1,000 yards, it's like, oh wait, hold on, we gotta actually pay attention to this guy. We got to put some bigger coverage on him. And then they watched tape on him. They knew his shiftiness and his moves and his route running, and they were able to put a stop to Hunter Renfro pretty good, and so like having a Brock Bowers is going to be game changing for sure. And then he does have some good blocking capabilities. Some people said he's not the best blocker, and I was watching some of his tape breakdowns where he made some really, really good blocks on some of them, and then there were some of them where he just really missed, right? And when it comes to a tight end, you're gonna have that. I don't expect perfect blocking from a tight end, but I do believe that this is a contributor to the trenches, right? When you're able to have an extra blocker out there, I count it as trenches, and it was said all up coming to the draft, right? Is that you win games in the trenches, right? And so, really being able to stack the offensive line, we have a stacked defensive line, adding to that tight end room. I can't be mad about that at all, at all, at all. Bowers will be all over the field. He will be all over the field, and he's going to be hard to cover. Yeah, dude, that dude's going to be super hard to cover. You're going to have to really watch out for him on every single snap. And so that's really going to open things up for Devontae Adams, for Jacoby Myers, for Michael Mayer, Trey Tucker, and I really think that the good combination that we have of all of these different weapons, it's going to be really huge, and then he did play with Chris Smith and Zamir White, and so like that's another thing is that he already has connections on the team, and I really like that, because being able to have guys that you already have a rhythm with, it just leads to better football, definitely. Um, I also want to bring up another guy. Let me pull up the screen. B plus on that grade or overall, Cable. What do you think on Brock Bowers or just overall? Because I would say overall, my grade would be a solid B, and that's just because we didn't get a quarterback, and it's not for the lack of effort. I was talking about it before. There was definitely effort made to get a quarterback, and once it was like, okay, all the quarterbacks went in the top 12. Let's just go ahead and build this team around moving forward with um Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, right? Let's see what that looks like overall. Chad Smith, what's up, man? What it is? Raider Nation for life. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share screen on this other guy. Sorry it takes me so long to share screen. I got some weird computer issues going on, but I finally figured it out. So I'm just glad that I'm being able to make it work. Let's go ahead and go on to there we go. So we got Delmar Glaze, right? DJ. He's 6'5", 328 pounds, which actually, he's a big dude. He's pretty fast. I feel like this one was a reach. I honestly feel like this one was a reach. He's got an overall grade and PFF grades, I don't really take too strongly on, but like when it comes to offensive linemen, it's really hard to look at like a lot of their stats. And honestly, I was like really looking for tape on this guy, and I couldn't really find much at all. It was hard to even find any like highlights. He did have some starting snaps, he played left guard, he's played right guard. I mean left tackle, right tackle, my bad. And he even played a little bit of right guard, right? And he even said in his press, what's it called? The intro presser, where it's just like really he doesn't have a position that he just has to like always be at, that he can kind of jump around. And that's I think a big part of why they picked him up, because he's versatile, he can play a lot of different positions. I think that they saw a lot in him. One of the things that they talked about in the press conference was what they were looking for is work ethic, right? They're looking for these guys that just really have heart. And I don't think that they were just, especially after the first two picks. Tom Telesco even said it that at that point, they're looking for guys that aren't going to be day one starters. They're looking for guys that are really going to be able to contribute in their specific ways and develop into those players potentially, right? And I can't get mad at that. This guy is probably not going to be a starter day one. If I had to take a guess, um, our offensive line is going to be Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, Andre James, Jackson Powers Johnson, and then Thayer Mumford. But what it's doing is it's bringing competition into the offensive line. It's going to bring some competition where both Thayer Mumford and Dylan Parham, they both have some competition because we got Whitehair that we signed from free agency. He came over from the Bears, and then we got DJ Glaze coming in. So it's going to give some competition on the offensive line. And he said he definitely wants to have at least 8 solid guys for that line. So I think that I felt like it. Well, wait a minute. In the third round, we're drafting a depth piece. Like, that's a little weird to me. So, I don't see him being a starter at all. And it didn't sound like Telesco sees him as being a starter either. Ryan's giving the draft a A-. It's been one of the better drafts that we've had in a long time. I think that the last time we had a draft that was comparable was probably 2014. It's been a minute. See, another talking heads, another be great because we didn't get a quarterback, which wasn't even available to us. You guys hear yourself talk. I don't really know what you mean by this, Mike. I'm not saying that there's any big issue about the quarterback thing. I think you're talking about me giving it a B grade, which, everything else was great, but I know that quarterback was a need. I know quarterback was something that they were going for. And that's just the only reason why I give it a B is because they weren't able to land that. And it's not their fault, and so I'm not faulting them for that. But it was very obvious that they didn't want to move forward with the quarterbacks that they have. They're they do have some good quarterbacks that they're happy with. But it was more of a fallback plan to roll with these quarterbacks. And since we're having that fallback plan, we're going with plan B, or they get a grade B. But besides that, everything else was on point. Individually, I'd give most of these pickups a higher grade, most of them. But as a whole, you know, just because we didn't get that quarterback, that's a big miss, and you can't buy if somebody's not selling, right? And because we were drafting at 13, it really put us in a rough position, and there's a lot of talk about, okay, next year we're going to be in a position where most of these other teams have their quarterback needs met, and so it's going to be a little bit easier to get a quarterback. But I think that we're going to be drafting later next year because I believe we're going to win more games. So getting up to get a quarterback is going to be more difficult. But since these other teams have quarterback needs met, some of the big, like flashy ones, like Sanders, are going to go off the board early. But then we're going to have some guys with some talent that fall a little bit, right? Instead of having that run on quarterbacks that we had this year, I believe that there's going to be more of these talented quarterbacks kind of falling later into the first, and that could give us an opportunity there. So yeah, that's what's up, man. Mad Mike, welcome, man. I haven't seen you here before. Glad you made it. Glad you found me. We got a small live today. I figured Sunday morning was gonna either be a hit or a miss. I've never gone live on a Sunday morning. I've noticed that there's not nearly as much engagement on YouTube when it comes to this on Sundays. But I was gonna go live yesterday, but my kid, he had a performance, and then after that, we took him out to dinner and stuff, and it was just late by the time I got back, and then it just wasn't gonna work out, and so I went ahead and I scheduled it for this morning. He's got another performance here again today, so I got about another 45 minutes that I can be on. Let's see. Agreed. Mays won't be a starter. Give him a year or two. And that's one of those big things, right? Is that they looked at guys that they believed that they could develop. I felt like it was a reach. I think that there was a little bit of a run on tackles. And so it kind of put them in a position where, all of a sudden they were picking up a tackle at a point where they didn't really need to. I wanted to actually pull up this thing that I saw. I don't have it ready to share screen, but and a lot of people like to take different stats and just like choose, okay, we're going to focus on that stat, right? But it was a PFF highest career pass blocker grades, right? And Jackson Powers Johnson was at the top of that list with a 91.8. And as you go down the board, Delmar Glaze was listed at number 6 at a 87.9. And mind you, this is pass block grade, right? And so he does have a lot of places where he falls short, where he they were talking about when you have like a fast pass rusher and things that he kind of, doesn't read things quite as quickly. And so there are some things that he really needs to work on. But, really being a developmental piece, worst case scenario, depth, best case scenario is he really develops into a guy that we can put in a starting role. And they were talking about his work ethic too, that he's just got that work ethic. Let's see. Sometimes it's just the way things play out in the NFL, and it sucks. Like, honestly, like if you look back on my other videos, man, leading up to the draft, I wanted Jaden Daniels. I really, really did. And I really believed that there was a good shot that we were going to get him. And I believed that mostly on that. I believed that the Raiders were going to go ahead and make a try to go up and get him, and they did. And they weren't able to because they weren't selling. And it could be that we could have offered more capital and we could have got him, but I don't think that they were willing to play like that, and that's all right, because now we're in a position where we got to add some really good pieces, and then we're not mortgaging our future, right? And then Tom Telesco is really known for hitting on those first, you know, uh rounds 1 and 2 mostly. And if you look at the Chargers, over the last 10 years, how many of their first round draft picks are still on their roster? Like, they got a bunch of them. And for the Raiders, all we have is Colton Miller. So, like, being able to have those picks in order to add those pieces, I think is a great move, and I'm happy with it. It was still a solid draft all in all. Yeah, it definitely was. I'm not upset about it at all. Do I think that having a starting quarterback could have made this draft better? Yeah. Like having like maybe a Michael Penix Jr. instead of Brock Bowers, that would have been great. But there's a lot of concerns around Michael Penix Jr. as well. A lot of his what's I can't think of the word right now, like his throwing motion and things like that. They said that it needed to get cleaned up. His injury concerns. But honestly, I would have loved to have Michael Penix Jr. Um, and we'll see how it plays out. Him being on the Falcons is such a weird thing. I don't really know what they were thinking with that. It's super, super weird. But I mean, Kirk Cousins is obviously mad about it, and I don't really know what their plan is. So we'll see what that looks like moving forward, and we'll really see what he translates to, because sometimes, there's picks that I really want, and then when they hit the NFL level, like it just really doesn't translate. And then I'm like, oh well, I'm kind of glad that we didn't go get that guy. So we'll see. I don't wish bad on anybody, but it kind of does feel a little bit good when you see that, like, oh, I'm so pissed that we didn't get that guy, and then he doesn't translate to the NFL, and then it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad that we didn't do that move. We got one of the best tight end 1-2 punches in the NFL now. If they can really utilize them, like a lot of people are talking about Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. Um, if we can really utilize them properly, which I guess Luke Getzey, that's one of the things he likes to run is the 2 tight end set. If we're able to utilize that properly, it's going to be amazing. I don't see a world where, we don't figure out how to utilize these guys. If that's the case, then we got bigger problems, right? Because when you have 2 guys in the tight end room that are that talented, I mean, you got to get somebody the ball, you know, definitely. And having good tight ends really helps mid quarterbacks, right? And so that's what we have, right? We have mid quarterbacks. I don't see these guys being a top 15 quarterbacks right now. Maybe can develop into that, but really, I mean, do I believe that they are top 30? Yeah. Um, I really believe that we have the 2 best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. So it's a really weird position to be in. So I want to move on to this next player, man, and this next pickup, it was kind of interesting to me because like I saw a lot of good corners on the board. Wow, my whole thing got all mixed up. I saw a lot of good corners on the board in the fourth round. Um, we went with DeCamerion Richardson, right? And this dude's 6'2", 195 pounds. And if you look at his stats, like he doesn't really get picks. He has some passes defense. Last year he had 7. When I did find some decent tape on him, the guy that was doing the breakdown was very monotone and hard to listen to, honestly. But I got to see a lot of good things. He needs some work on his hip movements and things like that. But he's a tackler, is what he is, right? And even though like he's a little light, I mean he's really long. He's fast. The dude ran a 4.340, so he's definitely fast. He did struggle when covering top receivers like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, but I don't think that they're looking at this guy being a starter right away. One of the things that Telesco was talking about was adding a lot of guys on special teams, and their special teams contributions are going to lead to them having starting roles. And I really think that this guy, his motor, his work ethic, those kind of things are what's getting him on our roster. Um, but yeah, I saw that there was like a Cam Hart. There was actually some really good players left when we picked him up, and I didn't know this guy. I didn't, had never seen his name before, honestly. And so it was like kind of one of those stumpers for me where I was like, man, I don't know if we're doing the right thing. But I really see how this guy can contribute in a lot of good ways. He doesn't have that Marcus Peters thing where he refuses to make tackles and stuff like that. And I really think that some of these guys, even though like people are saying, this draft has Tom Telesco's stamp all over it, and it really does. I think that Antonio Pierce is also a good contributor to like being able to have insight on these guys' attitude, if they're going to be a scheme fit and those kind of things. And I think that that's really what they looked at. I mean, across the board, but especially in these later rounds, is more of like how can these people fit in the locker room? Do they have the work ethic to get better? Do they love football? Are they going to contribute on special teams? In Tom Telesco's day 3 presser, he seemed to have a lot of concerns about the new kickoff rules and what's going to look like on special teams, and what that's going to look like. Chad, there's this thing that we're going to about to have, right? Minshew maniacs are coming, and we're gonna have another division happen, because you're gonna have all the people that are all about Garner Minshew. And then you're gonna have all the Aiden O'Connell guys, and then there's gonna be a third thing of, oh, we could have taken a quarterback. Why didn't we take Spencer Rattler? Why didn't we take Jordan Travis? And you know what? I think that's a good time. I'm going to share this clip with you guys from the presser. And this clip, I think, says a lot, and it's Tom Telesco. Let me see. How do I do it? Let me see. I think I got to do this. Sorry, guys. I'm having trouble with my share screen. I got to do this weird loophole to get through it. So I'm going to have to do share screen. Oh, that looked weird. All right, cool. See, and so Tom Telesco said himself, like, that after all those quarterbacks went in the top 12, that they didn't even consider another quarterback, right? So they didn't believe that there was a quarterback that was available that's better than the guys, or could be better than the guys that we already have. And I mean, that's how I felt about it the whole time, because like, okay, Jordan Travis was promising. um a lot of concerns about that injury. Spencer Rattler had good seasons a couple years ago, but he was definitely on the decline. And I don't know if he's really going to develop to be like that guy. So, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of concerns that I had there. A lot of people really loved both those quarterbacks and wanted them. And I feel like there's some people that just want a quarterback for the sake of having a quarterback because they don't believe in the ones that we have. And really, Gardner Minshew, he can win games, right? There's this stat sheet. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna share that too. There's a stat sheet with Gardner Minshew, and um, let me just pull it up for you guys. That way you can see it. Boom, there we go. Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence, right? And this was based on Trevor Lawrence has played 50 games, and Gardner Minshew 49, and Trevor Lawrence has started a lot more. I think that he started like all of them, and then Gardner Minshew only started like 37. So Gardner Minshew has more passing touchdowns, less interceptions, better passer rating, um, and this is on less pass attempts. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that really says a lot or not. I think Gardner Minshew is a really good quarterback. I also feel like Aiden O'Connell coming into year two, especially if he wins that starting job, because there's going to be a QB competition. If he wins that starting job, I really think that he's going to have an off season with starting reps, and I honestly think that he's going to really take a leap. This guy, when he came into Purdue, he was number 8 on the depth chart, and he worked his way up to a starter. I guess he had the same issue in high school, and he also had the same issue in the NFL. So I believe that he's willing to put in that work, and that heart is going to speak for a lot. Let me see. Mad Mike, don't forget about the roster cuts come August. You never know who could fall into our laps. One thing I've learned being a Raiders fan is be patient. And that's definitely it, man. I mean, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? I don't think that they're done building this roster. I think there's still like 3 open spots after all the UDFAs that we picked up. Chad's asking about the UDFAs. I don't have that thing available to share screen, man. I did find a good screenshot, and we did pick up a quarterback on UDFAs, right? Carter Bradley, and he's Gus Bradley's son, I guess. I was watching some tape on him last night, man, and honestly, I was not impressed. I just really wasn't, and hopefully, he could turn into like some weird Brock Purdy on the UDFA list, but honestly, I don't think that it's going to go that route. But let me see. Out of all the names, because I don't really recognize any of these names, right? But there was a guy, Ramel Keaton from Tennessee. There was a guy that was on one of the Raider groups I'm in on Facebook, and he said that he's a Tennessee fan, and that this dude is like a beast and drops no passes, and that he's going to be a really good addition. He thinks he's going to make the roster. And Jaquan Shepard is a cornerback from Maryland who was able to he got a high pay rate, I guess, on UDFAs. I think they're giving him 230,000 guaranteed. And some people were talking about that. That's kind of a signal that this dude will probably make the team, because if you pay a UDFA that kind of money, it's usually that you see something in him. So Tom Telesco has a knack for pulling UDFAs. Austin Eckler was a UDFA. And so I really I think that some of these guys might make the roster, honestly. James Furpo, Raiders. Man, you know what? I may seem down energy, but honestly, it's because I stayed up way too late last night and I slept in, dude. So I barely been up for like about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. I haven't had enough caffeine yet, man. I should have busted out some more coffee. As long as it's not Brady, I'm okay with it. That's another there's going to be a portion of Raider Nation that's going on that train, right? Where it's just like, oh, this means we're doing a 2 tight end set. That means Tom Brady's coming out of retirement. That's why we didn't get a quarterback, da da da. And like, is it a possibility? Yeah. is it really slim possibility? Yeah, I don't think that that's going to be the route for us. I would love for Aiden O'Connell to learn under Tom Brady. I'm not a fan of Tom Brady. I still got resentments over the Tuck rule, so yeah, I don't really want him honestly. I think that if he came onto our roster, would we do better? I think so. I think that we have a roster that could support him also because he's old, man. He's like 46 years old, dude. I'd be afraid of him taking a hit. Might break a hip. Jeez. Um, Minshew is underrated. He really is, and I think that there's a couple of things behind that. Part of it's where he was drafted. Part of it is just who he is as a person. A lot of people, I don't think that they really like that very much. Uh, Sounds like he's already fitting in the Raiders locker room really well, right? And this is a place where, you know, um, like Max Crosby says, we're misfits, right? And I think that this is a place where they're being allowed to just genuinely be who they are, and I think that that can put a person in a position to thrive. It's kind of like the place I work at, man. Like, the last job I had, like I couldn't just be me. It was like there was all these weird expectations, and like the pay was kind of crap, and it's like, wait, you have these kind of expectations on me and this is what you're offering me? Like this, it doesn't match up, right? And I'm at a place now that pays a lot more than that. Um and and they just let me be me. In fact, they hired me because of who I am and what my past history is, and they love that, and they're like, yes, be more of you. So I'm all about that, and I think that when you feel that comfortable, like, setting in your work environment, it just leads for people to thrive. And so, Garner Minshew being more comfortable with the Raiders than he has with other teams, I think is going to put him in a position where he could thrive. Let's see. AOC got game as well. He's a statue in the pocket, though. Yeah, if he could really learn how to navigate, knowing when to step up and move around, roll to the right, those kind of things a little bit better. Because I don't think he's going to get much faster, but I don't think that we need a running quarterback. I like the whole, like, I was all about Jane Daniels, right? But the thing that scared me about him is he fucking runs too much. Like, I would like to see somebody who is just kind of more mobile in the pocket, more mobile with, extending plays, that kind of play, right? And that's one of the things that I don't know, I thought that Michael Penix Jr. might do pretty well in the NFL, but we'll see how that goes, man. Let's see. Bradley that was picked up undrafted could be something. Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about him, so I think this comment had already come in. I don't really know that that dude's going to be anything. Maybe they see something more than just the Gus Bradley connection. It could be that the tape that I saw on him wasn't very good, but I didn't see this guy as being better than Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. And maybe a developmental piece or something, but he's probably going to be a practice squad guy or that QB3. Raiders Rebel, what's up, man? What's up? You've been saying it for a while of who we're going to roll forward with at quarterback, and you were right, man. You were right. My guy AOC is not a statue. I don't know where everybody gets this from. Do not watch the games. The man made plenty of plays with his legs, throws great on the run, might not run for yardage. Yeah, and I don't really want him to run for yardage. I think that it's nice when you have even Tom Brady used to, like, run for a first down and things like that. So I'd like to see some of those kind of plays from him. Dude's not afraid to take a hit. He'll stay and he'll throw, even though he knows he's going to take that hit. There's a lot of good attributes to Aiden O'Connell. I just honestly believed that there were some quarterbacks in this draft that were better than him, and I'm always about the upgrade. But since he's our guy rolling forward, like, I don't got a problem with him at all. Honestly, I think he can win us some games. He definitely can. Yeah, he could still do better. He could. Let's see. You don't need straight line speed to be a great quarterback as long as you can move around in the pocket like he's shown. He can throw, and his throws on the run will be fine. Yeah, I think that he's gonna if he's working on his footwork, if he's working on his eyes, um, I really think that as long as he's developing in that area, he's going to show out in a lot better fashion this year. I mean, he got thrown into a weird situation last year, and I knew that, like, he was going to be our best chance at quarterback on that roster. I knew Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't going to be the guy, and definitely not Brian Hoyer. Um, and I just really think that he got thrown in a weird way, and so we didn't get to see the best of him, right? And those last several games, like we got to see the improvements, and if he's improving at that rate throughout the offseason, I think that week one we're going to see a totally different Aiden O'Connell. I honestly think he's going to win the job. I really do. Um, but if Gardner Minshew wins it, that just means that we got the best guy available and send it. Let's go. See, he was a rookie thrown into fire. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, man. And I don't expect him to be a superstar or top 10 quarterback ever. I don't think that we need that to win games. I don't know if this dude can take us to a Super Bowl, but there's been some shaky quarterbacks that have taken teams to Super Bowls. So you really never know, man. See, the kid got better at every game, had no offseason, basically held a clipboard in practice until he was thrown in as a starter with an interim offensive coordinator who never called a play in his life. Yeah, and that offensive coordinator, it just was not a good situation at all. And he didn't get those starting reps in practice. He didn't get to really jump in. And so when he got thrown in, it was like, you know, he could have been in training camp learning those things instead of mid-season learning those things. So I think that we're gonna see a lot of good things, man. And I definitely got a good feeling about this season too. I want to also talk about some of these other guys that we picked up later on. I know some people don't really care about anything past the fourth round. I do. I think that there's some of these pickups that can really be big contributors. Let me see, where is he at? Dylan Laube. So I've heard his name be pronounced different ways. Um, when I was watching tape on him, they were calling him Laube, and so I'm going to roll with that until I'm corrected. He's 5'10", 207 pounds, so he's kind of a smaller guy. But he put up some big numbers, and he was Division 1, right? Um, really over these last couple years too. Like 2022, he had 1,200 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns. And then, and that was some of the stuff I was hearing in the tape I was watching, is like the announcer being like, it's not a New Hampshire game without a Dylan Laube touchdown, and it's like, geez, like that's just like a regular occurrence for them, right? Last year, he had less rushing yards, 715 with 9 touchdowns. But if you look at his receiving stats, that really changed last year. I mean, he's a passing back, 699 yards in the receiving game while having 715 in the rushing game. Average of 10 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns receiving while having 9 touchdowns. So he still had 16 touchdowns total. The dude's a dog, and he's got a work ethic. Tom Telesco was talking about it in the presser that this guy is really, they're looking at the special team stuff, and that this guy knows that, he's got to really earn his way into a starting role through special teams, and that he's all about it. If you look at his special team stuff down here, um, you know, I mean, he's got definitely yards on kickoffs. He's even got a touchdown over here. And he was talking about it in his press conference that he can be the gunner, he can be a lot of different things for special teams, and he recognizes that. I honestly think that what's going to happen with Dylan Laube is he's going to be the replacement for Amir Abdullah, right? Going to be that more of a third down back, and honestly, he's going to give Alexander Madison a run for his money, because it could be that we move away from Amir Abdullah and Alexander season and roll forward with Dylan Laube and Zamir White, right? If Zamir White is that, that punch in your face kind of back, uh I'm losing the words I'm looking for right now. And then Dylan Laube is more, because he's quick, he's shifty, he really gets a lot of yards after the catch, and so I really think that that might be our 1-2 punch moving forward. But picking him up in the fifth round, like, yeah, that's a huge value on that. And he wasn't a name I was familiar with before, but I really think moving forward he's going to be good, man. We got Dylan Laube. That was my pick. I talked about him in all my videos. The man is a flipping machine. You know, he really was, man, and I'm excited about the pick. I personally hadn't learned about him, and I guess I hadn't seen any of your videos where you were talking about him. Algorithm, man, I think is doing you kind of dirty right now. You're not popping up on my thing, man, and so like I have to like actually put in Raiders Rebel and then ask, and then I can find you and then I can choose some videos. So I don't know what's going on with that, man. I hope that you get a boost in that algorithm, dude. You should put out some good content. If you guys haven't already found Raiders Rebel, look him up, man. He's on YouTube. He's putting out content. He's a solid dude, man. Go check it out. Let's see, Chad, they threw half of the 17-page playbook. Oh yeah, man. They threw out like half of that playbook. They're working off Josh McDish's playbook. Yeah, dude. It was just an awful situation, man. You think that Lauby's the best back we have, huh? And he's the best receiver on the team. You know, he did talk about that, like if he had to compare his game to anybody who's in the NFL right now, he said Christian McCaffrey, right? And that's a lot of confidence to say something like that. I don't think that somebody's going to say something like that and not be able to back it up. I don't know if he'll ever be a Christian McCaffrey. He's definitely smaller than him, but I mean, if he can give even close to that style of play, like then we got a good one. That's for sure, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if something that I noticed that it's like in the description, if you put some hashtags, that it helps. Because I wasn't doing that at first. I started putting some hashtags, and like I don't know, like my live stuff doesn't really seem to get out as much as when I make videos. But I've been really enjoying going live, man. This is one of the things I really wanted to do is to talk with you guys and hear from the nation and hear what you guys have to say, because I don't feel like an expert about any of this. I don't think that my opinion is always the right one, and sometimes there's people in the comments that make me look at like my viewpoints, and then I start kind of it changes, right? So if you ever see me say something in a video that contradicts something I said in a past video, just know it's because I approach things with an open mind and I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to just, I just love the Raiders, man, and I don't want to just be one of those guys that thinks I'm always right about everything, man. Yeah, he's being compared to Woodhead, man, and like full send, dude, full send. I'm excited about that pickup. And really, I mean, because we got him in the fifth round, I think a lot of people were like, oh, it's fifth round. But like the run on running backs didn't happen until like the fourth round. I think there was only like one or two running backs off the board before the fourth round. And I think that's really showing the value of running backs in the NFL. So to pick him up in the fifth round, it doesn't make me feel like, oh, he's like a nobody and he's not going to be able to get any playing time. Like, I still think it's going to be a good pickup for sure. 94% completion ratio in college career. That's insane. It definitely is, man. Who's the guy we got they compared to BTO Penny Sewell? I didn't hear that comparison, so I'm not sure who you're talking about, man. If somebody can think of who that was, put it in the chat, man. 44 years, diehard Raiders fan. There we go. Raiders Rebel, man. Killing it. I've only been a fan for what, 22 years? 22. And like I've said before, I wasn't always super engaged that whole time, man. There was a point where I just kind of became that guy that's watching highlights and only watching games that are on national TV. And then, really getting back into it in the last several years where I'm, fully involved. Um, man, I love this shit. I'm grateful to be back with both feet in. So we still got a couple of guys to talk about. I'm gonna have to jump off here probably in about the next 15 minutes or so, but I do have some other guys I want to talk about before we end this. So we're gonna move forward. Let me see. Hold up real quick. So the next guy, oh, Tommy Eichenberg, man. dude, Tommy, this is one of the guys um, that really popped up on a lot of my mock drafts. I didn't do any videos with mock drafts because I'm just really, I don't know, not really too experienced with too many people that are later in the rounds. So I didn't know really too much to be able to just talk on somebody on the fly. Like I said, I'm not a football expert. Um, but Tommy Eichenberg was one of those guys that kept popping up when I was doing mocks, and I knew that we needed a linebacker, and I just didn't know, how early we are going to get one. I kind of figured we are going to go a later rounds linebacker, and this guy, some people are saying his pro comp is Robert Spillane, which if that's the case, like send it. The tape I watched on this guy, he's 6'2", 239 pounds. But the tape I watched on this guy, like he's a thumper, right? He's like on every play. He's got a good motor. He's got good eyes. I saw him reading a lot of plays that that I think a lot of people would have missed, being able to know where the ball is going to end up before it does and getting in there. I didn't see him giving up on any plays. And I hate to see that, man. When you got somebody that just gets lazy on a play. That was one of the things I didn't like about Chandler Jones, right? Is that, once the ball wasn't in his like vicinity, the dude would just like stop. He reminded me of Shaq. just like just stalling out and just not really being involved. But he's got a handful of sacks. He does have a handful of interceptions, but mostly where his game at is in the tackles, and the dude is a dog. He's really good at spotting the run. I didn't really get to see too much of his holes. So if you guys know more about his holes, like let me know about it, man. I think that it's a solid pickup. This dude, I don't think he's going to be a starter immediately. They talked about his special team contributions. Tom Telesco talked about that in the presser. And, I think that a lot of these later round guys, that's where they're going to start is where do they contribute with special teams? And then how does that relate to our roster and how can they kind of fit in? Honestly, I think this guy, I don't know if he's going to replace Divine Diablo. He might develop into that. But I think that Luke Masterson needs to watch out because he's coming for it. I also like this guy more than Amari Burney. So we'll see what that plays out, man. I think it's going to be pretty good. Okay, Chad's thinking bye-bye Divine Diablo. Yeah, I mean, it's a great pickup, great value. To be able to pick him up, uh, and I had skipped him, right? But we picked him up in the 5th, and we got Laube in the 6th. That's super good value. But to get Tommy in the 5th, on a lot of the mocks I did, like he was gone in like the 4th. So I think that we got decent value on that, but I really think that he's going to be a great player moving forward. Okay, let me see. Can I see well offensive line Lions? Mel compared one of our picks to him. Talking about Mel Kiper. Honestly, I didn't see that, man. I probably Glaze. Probably Glaze. I mean, Glaze, we talked about him, but you know, I think that he could be a good developmental piece. I don't think that he's going to get starting reps right away. Um, unless we kick him into guard. But I think that they're looking for that rotational piece that can sit behind our starters. That way, if anybody goes down, he can jump in, and I really think that that's going to be the case because he has a lot of versatility there, definitely between left tackle and right tackle. Get back to work. Raiders Rebel, get back to work, man. No, you're probably like me, man. I listen to Raiders shit all day at work, dude. Definitely. Let's take care of our Raider Brothers Nation. What's going on, Raider Mac? What you talking about? And glad you're here, man. If you guys have not, please hit that like, please hit that sub. I very much appreciate it. It's all free to you. Definitely will help me out. So let's go ahead and move forward. I'm a little limited on time. I want to talk about Trey Taylor. Now Trey Taylor, he really hit late, which is surprising because he won the Jim Thorpe Award, right? Which is like the best defensive player in college football. And I think that part of what's going on is because he's Air Force, he didn't get like as much recognition, I guess. I mean, round 7, pick 223. Dude's 6 foot tall, 210 pounds. Um, and what I really saw in him is he had really good eyes, right? So we got he's a safety, but the dude had several interceptions. Last year he had 3. Um, he doesn't hit too many sacks, and really what I saw out of this guy was like he had good read on offenses, on what they were going to do before they did it, and I saw him make a lot of good plays. I saw that, you know, um super fast, but he's
Hello,
pretty quick.
Ghostbusters! It's
But I
done.
think this is another
I've
guy
done the
that
Emu.
work ethic
We help people
had a lot to
customize and
do
save
with why they
hundreds on
brought
car
him in.
insurance with Liberty Mutual.
Jim Thorpe
Anyway,
Award, right? And so
we
we
got a
got
bit of a
Trayvon
situation
Merrick
here.
and Trey Taylor both in our safety room, and both these guys won this award. You can't be mad at
Sure, I
this
can.
pickup at all.
Only
I don't
pay
really,
for what
I
you
didn't feel that we had a need for safeties, but maybe there's something going on with Paul Mao
Ghostbusters,
or
Frozen
Chris
Empire.
Smith that they're
Computers
not
now.
really too happy with. But also Trayvon Merrick and Marcus
The
Epps,
draft came
they
to a
only got one
close
year
on
left on their
Saturday, and it was
deals.
another banner
Same
year
with Paul
for the
Mao.
SEC.
So
For the
because these guys
18th
only have
straight
one more
year,
year
the
left on their
SEC
deals,
led
I think it
all
puts us in a
conferences
position
in
where
draft picks with
they can't guarantee that
59
all these
total
guys are
picks. And how
coming back.
well represented was the
So since they
conference?
can't
13
guarantee
of the
that, or
14
maybe
schools had at
they're
least
going to go
one
ahead and
player.
let somebody walk. It's pretty important to go ahead and bring in another safety. That way, he can be that guy moving forward. It could be that some of these guys are looking at some contracts that they're not wanting to pay, or whatever the case may be. Gee, Robert, welcome, man. 40 years, baby, no championship. Man, I was 10 years old, and the best keep getting better. Yeah, dude, it's rough, man, rough. Who started all 13 games? We talking about Trey Taylor? Mad Mike, let me know, man. Robert, I disagree with that because I think that Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers Johnson are both a lock to start. So we definitely for sure have 2 starters that are probably going to be Pro Bowl or All Pro players. But beyond those first 2 picks, um, I don't think that we have anybody that's going to start immediately. I think that these guys are definitely good depth pieces and developmental pieces that could definitely be starters for us at some point, but not right away. Yeah, Taylor, man. Taylor's good, man. And he's also a guy that, he's not going to start right away. I think he's going to get some snaps, but I definitely don't see him starting right away. And then we're gonna move forward to MJ Devonshire, right? And MJ Devonshire, this dude, his stats hit a little bit better than some of these other corners. He's 5'11", 190 pounds. He was picked 229 in round 7, so he was our last pick. And this guy, he also, let me see. Oh, you know what? It was Richardson actually that had more special teams value, so that was part of why they brought him in. But this guy, he had 4 picks. Even, got some touchdowns over here in the last couple of years. A lot past his defense. So his stat sheet reads a lot better. I didn't find a whole lot of tape on him, and I'm really thinking that in the next couple of weeks, there's gonna be a lot more of, tape breakdowns and things like that of the guys that we picked up. So I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out for that on YouTube. But yeah, like I don't have access to all 22 and things like that. I'm not one of those guys. But the little that I got to see, I saw some good solid play out of him. He's our last pick. So, definitely not looking at this guy being a starter. I don't think that we picked up any any defensive players that are going to be starters. But that's okay because we lack the depth in our defense. Our defense is very solid, and a lot of people were talking about having holes, right? And the holes that we really have, um, were on the offensive line, which we got some needs met there, and then in our secondary cornerbacks. And the fact that we picked up 2 cornerbacks and a safety, I think is pretty good. We also got some good guys in UDFAs, so look out for them. But one of the things that I really see happening this year is we got Brandon Faison, who's going to be on the last year of his contract. He's coming back from that injury, so we're going to see how well he shows up. But also, Jacorian Bennett's going to be in year 2. He was a 4th round pick last year. And I really think that that dude's going to take that leap and actually get up to NFL speed. I really have a feeling Jacorian Bennett's going to be the guy on the other side of Jack Jones. And if that's the case, then that's really cool. Brandon Faison is probably not going to get brought back on unless he has like a huge year for us. And so, like, some of these other guys are, probably looking at the next, not this year, but maybe the following year, the year after is when they're really going to start getting some playing time. And if they really develop into those pieces, that's going to be great. I already know that next year we're going to pick up some other pieces right behind them. And so, I really like that there's competition at all levels of the field. We got competition in the quarterback room and we got competition all the way down, and we have some guys that are going to they've already solidified their position, and that's really great to have. But, there's going to be a lot of competition all the way through for starting roles. So I can't be mad at it at all. Let's see. Robert, bro, the tight end might get the ball. You got Adams, Mayers, 16. Um, are you talking about Myers, Jacoby Myers, or Michael Mayer? I know that those two names, man, they all confused up, right? But like, really, I'm really happy with the way that our receiving core is looking right now because we got Devontae Adams, we got Jacoby Myers, and we got Trey Tucker, and then we got Michael Mayer and we got Brock Bowers. Our receiving game is going to be insane, and if they're running those two tight end sets, and it's gonna be crazy, but we're running out of time, man. I gotta get ready. My kids got a performance today, so I gotta show up for that. I appreciate you guys, everybody in the building. If you have not yet, if you're at this part of the video, please hit that sub button. And I'll be on soon, man. I'll schedule it in advance, and so keep a lookout for me, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.